Alright guys, what's up? We're doing a rehouse video. Things that are in my own collection really that I'm just growing on. So yeah, I'm going to show you some basic houses for these things. Stuff that's going to give them plenty of space to move, molt, and create lots of webbing. And also so I can keep a good eye on them, make sure they're healthy. So we're going to get to that. So what I'm doing here is I'm just grabbing a load of leaves here and just throwing them around the enclosures a little bit. I find that if you do give baboons hide or cork they can go under, they would much prefer to just web straight over it and create a thick layer of web instead of using the hide. This soil is pretty dry. It's made of rock, sand, a lot of the mix is from MK Exotics. There's a little mix of that as well because you don't want to just use sand, it's not very natural. Like a mixture of sand and rocks and stuff like that. We're going to start off with some of these. So we're going to do the cafreriana first. Like I said, I've put these leaves in there so they've got a lot of anchor points. They're going to create a load of web. So these are beautiful little spiders, quite uncommon. They could probably definitely stay in these pots for a little bit longer, but I want to give them a nice space now to start webbing. And they can stay in there for a while. Grab the lids. So here's another one. This one's a little bit, well, this one's definitely fatter. This one's probably going to molt very soon, so it's going to be nice to give them a lot of space to molt. You know, if they can be cramped up, sometimes they can have bad molts too. I'm going to do this one. I'm just going to take out this dirt. So again, I'll give a slight disclaimer. Sometimes I do things with my hands with spiders that maybe I wouldn't recommend. So you can see with that species, the baboon species here, the reason why it was moving out there is because it couldn't feel its web. Get these labels over. This one's quite dull in colour. This one's a little bit brighter. So the common name for these is the Cape Copper baboon. Oh, that one had something in its mouth, I think. Probably I just fed it. That's fine. You see this enclosure is quite large for it, but like I said, they're going to grow into it quickly. This species stays small. Even an adult female in this enclosure wouldn't be insane. I personally wouldn't do it, but it wouldn't. They're one of the smaller of the Harpactira species. Within the Harpactira, you have what's known as the namaquensis group, which is the Harpactira pulchripes, Harpactira namaquensis, dictator, and aviana, which are the larger of the Harpactiras, and the rest of them are a little bit smaller. Here's to compare. This is a larger female cafreriana. Even for this one here, the colours are quite dull. She's quite old in her skin now though. Obviously when she molts they'll be a lot bigger. She's got a nice healthy round bum. But this is very close to an adult. I would say this is definitely a sub-adult of the species. And you can see beautiful spiders. Anyway. So moving on to namaquensis now. These are one of the first species I got when I was just getting into Harpactira. I have the first adult female namaquensis I had. Still got her. These are quite similar to Aviana in some ways. The easiest way to tell is there is like almost an oil slick like look to the legs of Baviana, which these lack, and personally I find the setae on the namaquensis are a little bit whiter. I'm going to try and explain as well while we're on the topic of these spiders, the Harpactira. They're obviously one of my favourite genus. And the first ever species I bred was Harpactira pulchripes. So when you're getting your Harpactira, Obviously, someone could try and dupe you with another species, but Harpactira are the only species of baboon that have scopulae on the outside and the inside of their chelicerae. And I'll try and put a photo up on the screen here to explain this with Harpactira namaquensis actually. So you can see scopulae are the hairs that are on the outside of the chelicerae, and off the top of my head, I'm not going to say this is fact, but off the top of my head, Keratogyres have scopulae on the outside, so Harpactira, but they also have it on the inside, and Tarantulas also have scopulae on the outside of their chelicerae. I believe Augustocephalus and Dolichothele lack it, just to name a few of the baboon species. But if someone was trying to dupe you with I don't know, an orange OBT, orange colourful OBT, and saying it was Harpactira cafreriana or something like that, the best way to tell, if you couldn't tell with the naked eye, would be to look to see if it has the scopulae on the centre. This one's already getting mad. On the centre of the chelicerae. So this one's obviously not very happy with me. So one thing when you're rehousing is to try and maintain contact with the paintbrush or whatever you're using. I don't like their legs, as I think I said in a sassy as. Actually doubled back. So it is also quite easy to tell. I know a lot of people will be this, but that one to me looks like a male. You can see on the where the epigastric furrow would be in a female, you can see that white dot that's very prevalent there. Anyone would be able to see that. So that one looks male to me. Very upset male. Well, this one definitely could be a little bit quicker. This is an African spider. This is a South American spider. This is one of my favourite genus, and I think the next video actually, someone's requested me to do my favourite species of spider video, so this is probably one of my favourite genus. This is Dolichothele. This is a Dolichothele Camacan, species Camacan. I don't know exactly what is known about these. I don't think there is a lot. For me, they look a lot like Dolichothele exilis. Somewhat browning. This one's quite freshly molted. There it is. Just going to give it the opportunity to run in if it needs to. Pretty spiders. They're a dwarf species. They're definitely on the bigger side of dwarf species. They're not Seriocosmus level by any means. These could definitely just be Dolichothele exilis, but they could just be originally taken from a different locality or region. So you'll see I didn't put any cork bark in the last ones. It's a different story for this type of spider in general. Arboreal spiders generally like to create hammocks for themselves to web and molt into. So it's definitely smarter to give them that option. It's quite nice. I'm going to give them a quick spray down, and the reason why we're not doing that while they're in there is because we'll make them run, so they'll get the drops off the side. And one thing I don't think I mentioned, as I used a totally different substrate to these guys than the other guys. This is mixed with some topsoil and a few other bits in there. So we're going to start with rufilata. I'm just going to grab a catch cup as well, just in case for some reason my hands don't work. You guys can love me or hate me for using my hands, but I tell you I'm much less likely to kill a spider using my hands than I would by trying to put a catch cup on top of it. That matter. So this is rufilata, known as one of the more flighty spiders. So hopefully I can show you here that They're okay. These are hail from India and Sri Lanka. I couldn't tell you whether these are, I believe I'm correct on that. That one's actually got some food in its mouth, I think, and that's why it's being a bit. So, as slings, these arboreal species, in general, will often actually burrow down. I would say that's probably because it's a bit safer for them when they're younger. I believe is the biggest of the genus. Again, I could be wrong. Rufilata or ornata are the largest. This one's really plump. When you're rehousing also, it's really important to make sure you give it contact to the new enclosure you're housing it in. If you hold it far away, it will just run around the side of the enclosure you're trying to take it out of. So I'm just maintaining contact here. He obviously wants to go back into his web, but we don't want to let him do that. So just moving it around, making sure we can feel contact. And there we go. As soon as he's in, it's going to go down there and start making some new web. So these enclosures are much nicer for them. They have a lot more space. So often people are also scared of getting old worlds and stuff like that, but as long as you're competent with animals and you're not super nervous, you have the right tools at your disposal, I think you'll be absolutely fine. Nice size one. I think this one was gifted to me by Ling, actually. Bang, there we go. Look at that. One of the prettiest spiders in the hobby for sure is Poecilotheria in general. Their patterns are just unbelievable. Cool. They're going to look really good against that green moss. Now we have vittata. These ones are quite hefty. These have taken no time at all. These are a matter of months and they're crazy size. Oh. So it's really just important to be calm in all the situations, because as soon as you start panicking and moving quickly, things get out of control really quickly. And even though these spiders are very venomous, they don't want to bite you unless they feel their life is in imminent danger. The stuff I've got here, this moss and these leaves are collected from the wild. Lovely little spiders these are. Boop it down a little bit more. Go on you. There we go. Lovely. Cool. So these are going to be... well, these are definitely one of the more, in my experience, one of the most fast-growing species, genus there is out there. They grow incredibly quick. So if you have the chance to pick up slings, don't worry about it being small for long. One of my first spiders was a Poecilotheria. I think that was one in my first 20. And I've got it up there somewhere. She's very big now. This one's missing cork. So in replacement for cork, you can use leaves as well. If you have some nice big solid leaves, they'll appreciate that as well. In terms of using stuff gathered from the wild, the only thing I would say is don't use stuff from people's gardens or places there may be pesticides. If you go into a wooded area, there's not going to be pesticides there. Just make sure you're going out in the sticks a little bit. I've been doing it for my whole time I've been keeping, and I've never had any issues at all. All the cork bark you have come in or you buy is definitely collated from somewhere in a forest or in the wild, and that's why you have things coming in it like little spiders or ants or non-native critters to this country. So that hasn't been treated in any way. Okay, this is the last one. This is Palmanigerium, a very pretty spider. You don't see them around too often. They're not super common. I've had this one a little bit now, so we can get it back out. These are often said to be almost a pulchra, arboreal pulchra. not because of their attitude, but because of their colour. Now I know there has been, that's beautiful, lovely, just nice and easy for me. Now I know there has been some changes, I believe, with this genus and species, so I'm not sure if that still is Lampripalma nigerian, but I was sold it as that for a little bit ago. So maybe someone can tell me via just looking there, or perhaps it would need to get bigger. But yeah, so hopefully that has been useful for you guys to see how I do things. I tend to be quite relaxed. I have never been bitten yet, touch leaves. And I don't plan to. But all of my animals, they stay in their enclosure, and the only time they'll come out is if they run out at me, or I'm rehousing them. These animals aren't for handling, in my opinion. Obviously, they can be. Some species are better for that than others, but I would never buy a tarantula. I recommend buying a tarantula if you want something that you can hold. But yeah, so that's those done. They're going to be great in those enclosures for a little bit. They're more than adequate. They look really lovely. I'm very happy with how these came out. They look nice. So guys, thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed that and maybe learned something, and I will see you all on the next one.